being inspired by how you really created the life that you wanted and dreamt of and followed what was in here. And you know, you, and what that caused you to have to do was kind of blow up certain parts of your life. Like you had to leave the marriage, you had to leave the job, you had to, you know, you had to have some necessary endings. And I think maybe at that time I felt like there was something that I needed to maybe end, but I wasn't sure what. And I didn't want to go there because it was so scary to even begin to think about, which is why when I heard your story, I was like, there's something here. I think I could learn so much from you. And I want to do this together. And one of the first exercise I remember doing was identifying my own values. And I had done this on a company level. You know, we wrote about this in Permission to Screw Up, identifying our team core values, but I had never really put intention around my own personal values. And you gave me an exercise to think about those and to identify what mine were. And then I remember also telling you about Spiros, and we talked about relationships, and you asked me, you know, do you feel that you both embody the same values? Or do you hold, you know, the same value on the same things? Because if not, that could be something that could be really hard later in your marriage, in your life. And that was just, it was such a simple exercise, but really, really powerful. And they were values that I leaned on in the pandemic, you know, to lead myself, to lead the people around me. So maybe share more of like, what, you know, why do you start there? And what can someone do if maybe they haven't identified these values for themselves?
If the reason that's something that it's one of the things I lead with, there's beliefs and then there's values, is if we start with goal setting and the things that you want to accomplish and all these types of things, if you're not clear on your values, they could be the wrong things. So you could do all of this work and all this planning and all this effort for something that really isn't you. It's really not as important to you. It's somebody else's values. It might be your parents' values or in your culture, what's prestigious. And again, it comes back to those shoulds. But the shoulds, the trouble is the shoulds are screaming in our ears and in our head. And our own voice is like a whisper. And so knowing which is which is really important. And when it comes to values, you know, a lot of people can go, oh, honesty, integrity, and they can just kind of go down and yes, this is important. Yes, this is important. Well, no, there's a handful that are most important to you, that when you have a dilemma, that's the value that wins. If you take something like, hey, I promised my kid I was going to go to this important baseball game, and this really important thing came up at work that is crucial to the advancement of my career. Well, there's no correct thing to do in that situation for objectively. There's no correct thing. But each person, what is the most important thing? What's going to win out right now? There's a value there, or you're making a choice. And all a dilemma is two values coming crashing into one another. So when you have a dilemma, that's an opportunity to say, if you don't know your values, you can say, okay, what are the two values that I'm struggling with here? You know, why is this such a dilemma, and why am I having a hard time making the decision? It's because both things are very important to you. So you're starting to uncover what your values are.
Yeah. And when we did the exercise, I identified 5 values. And then since we've worked together, I've continued to think on those 5 things, and I've been able to condense them to 2. And so to kind of help you see what Paul's talking about here, my 2 are courage and compassion. And whenever I'm faced with any dilemma, I can't think of a time where my values haven't shown me the way. If I can think about what is the most courageous, you know, way to show up here, the most compassionate way to show up here, I know that I will have an answer if I think that way. But sometimes it's hard because, like you said, they're so intertwined. Sometimes the courageous thing to do may hurt somebody else. It may not make them feel so great, right? And because compassion is another goal of mine, I think the hardest dilemmas for me are the ones where it's like it's going to affect other people.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a subscribe, or you can drop some comments down below.